everyone, assalamu alaikum. I'm finally going to upload my convert story, aka my revert story as I prefer to say it. And I decided to divide my revert story into two parts. This will be the first part, obviously. And this part I'll go a little bit more in depth about my my background and the way I was raised, just the way that God guided me to Islam throughout my life. And then in the second part that I'll upload next week, inshallah, I will go more in depth about the rational and the logical reasons why I end up accepting Islam as the religion of the truth and as my way of life. So make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on that. And without any further ado, let's get into this video. So to start off with, I grew up in a Christianish family. We didn't pray at home, but at the same time, we went to church, okay, maybe once a year during Christmas, maybe twice a year when it was Easter. But once a year we went to church, we didn't pray. However, we did go to a Christian school where we were taught a little bit about the Bible. I also had a Bible at my house. It was like a children's version of the Bible, which I absolutely loved. However, now that I look back at it, look back at my life, I feel like I was raised pretty much with the same morals and values as in Islam. Also, when I was little, I always believed that there was a God. I never doubted the existence of a God, even though my family did. I remember being very little, maybe 6 or 7 years old, and then just laying in my bed, or no, even I was kneeling before my bed and praying to God. I really felt that urge to pray to God, even though I didn't really know how, but I just prayed. When I grew a little bit older, maybe 7, 8, 9 years old, I prayed pretty much every single night to God, and especially if I had a test. And I remember sitting on my bed and praying to God, praying dear God in the heavens and the earth, please hear me out. I know you're so busy fixing wars and healing the sick and I don't know what, but please, if you have time, I do have a test tomorrow. Can you please, help me a little bit with that? So I remember praying every single night to God, and really feeling that urge to pray to God as well. Then at the same time, I developed a new hobby of mine, and it became a huge hobby up until in my teenage years, and it was writing. I loved writing stories. And at first, when I was really small, my stories were all about animals and little cats and dogs and elephants, I don't know what. But when I grew a little older, my stories became more and more religious, in the sense that it was always about a religious family. And the main character was pretty much 99% of the time Islamic. And I don't know why. This was just a really weird interest of mine, because I grew up in this village with pretty much 0 Muslims. I never met a Muslim in real life. I was just so little, so I was not really looking at the news and all, but I just had this weird interest in Islam. So today, Islam is a way of life to me. But when I look back, when I was small, it was just this interest of mine, and I never pictured myself being a Muslim myself. However, I really enjoyed incorporating it in my stories. And to make my stories more based on the truth, I often went to the library, to the information section, and then I just read a whole bunch of information about Islam. So Islam was really interesting to me, but it didn't really impact me directly. Moving on to my teen years, I was still writing a lot of stories. It was still my greatest hobby. And my stories were still pretty much 99% of the time based on religion. However, in my own life, I kind of lost the connection with God at that time. So I went to high school, and like I said, I grew up in this village with 0 Muslims. There's just no religion in my direct environment. So I lost that connection with God. couple of years later, I went to study and I went to a big city. And that was the first time that I met Muslims in real life, or at least people who claimed to be Muslim. I was really confused at the time observing those people. It didn't match with the way that I thought Islam was supposed to be. It didn't match with the way that I described Islam in my own stories. And also it didn't match with me. It didn't match with my own morals and values. So at that time, Islam became like a far from my bed show. And Islam in the media, that didn't really help either. So my interest in Islam did not disappear at all, actually, but this all caused me to have so much more questions about Islam. And I didn't know who to ask it to, all the way up until I actually met my husband. So my husband was one of the first, if not the first Muslim that I met who actually matched with my idea of what Islam was supposed to be. It matched with the way that I described Islam in my stories, as well as he matched his behavior. It all just matched with me. So he was, to me, the right person to ask all the questions that I had left. And he could pretty much answer all of the questions that I had, and it all made so much sense to me. So at this point, I was 19 years old. Because it all made so much sense to me, everything that he explained, I just had this extra motivation to again investigate Islam. Like the fire inside of me, it burned again, and this time I started researching Islam in an academic way instead of in a childish way, just to write my own stories. So this was a period, and it maybe took me 1 year, maybe not even a year. And in this year, I really digged into this religion. I really did my research, and after, like I said, maybe 1 year, I finally accepted Islam as a religion of the truth. How this year exactly went, and all the things that I discovered, like the logical and the rational reasons why I ended up accepting Islam, I'll tell you in my next video that I'll upload next week. So the note that I want to end with is, I just want to emphasize how important it is to meet the right people when you're on your journey to Islam. If I, for example, never met my husband, I don't know if I would have had that motivation to really dig into this religion and to really reinvestigate Islam the way that I did. So long story short, this was just my background, just the way my life went by up until the point that I accepted Islam. So how can I be sure that Islam is the truth? How can I be sure that the Quran is the word of God, the true word of God, and not just a story made by people or maybe adjusted by people? How can it be proved that this is the word of God? And can it even be proved that it's the word of God? So Islam is based on the Holy Quran. So what better point for me to start was than starting with the Holy Quran as my base. So I started really investigating this book. I started really digging into this book, really doing my research. So for starters, I did not have any knowledge about the Quran. I don't speak the language, it's in Arabic. And obviously I'm not an Arab. I don't speak the language, I cannot read it. I just didn't know anything about the Quran. So I started really from scratch. However, what I did was reading a translation to start with. There's translation in pretty much every single language. There's also a lot of information out there on YouTube, as well as in other kinds of books. I also read this book, it's called This is the Truth. So basically this is a book in which scientists, like non-Muslim scientists, were asked about a few of the miracles in the Quran. So for example, a scientist of embryology was asked about his specific field, And yeah, also these scientists were like really convinced that the Quran could not have been written by any other than God. I'll get back to that a little bit later. So doing my research, I discovered that the Quran, this book, was revealed 1400 years ago throughout a period of 23 years. So this whole book was composed throughout 23 years. And this is kind of an important fact. I'll come back to it a little bit later. In this same book, cover to cover, there are over 6,000 verses, of which 1,000 are scientific based. So I'm going to talk a little bit about science because that's one of the things that hit me the most when I was doing my research. So, for example, I discovered that something as clear as it is right now about the Big Bang, it's just recently discovered. Like there was this huge Big Bang, the whole like universe once was joined together, and then there was this huge Big Bang, and puff, everything came into existence. Only recently discovered, right? But I found that in this book, this Quran, it was already written like 1400 years ago, that this was the way that the universe came to existence. In Surah 21, verse 30, it said that, "Have not those who disbelieve known that the heavens and the earth were joined together as one united piece, and then we parted them? And we have made from water every living thing. Will they not then believe?" So this was written, I'm literally reading it from the Quran right here. This was written 1400 years ago. It was impossible that anyone could have known that 1400 years ago. It was just impossible. There was not enough technology. There was not enough knowledge, not enough science to know this. So that was pretty mind-blowing. Another example, I'm just gonna name a few. There are, like I said, there are over 1,000 examples, like scientifically based, but I'm not gonna name all of 1,000. Another example is in the area of like the oceans. Only recently it's discovered that oceans are separated through barriers. Like I said, only recently discovered, but it's already mentioned in the Quran. Let me see, it's in Surah 55 and then verse 90, 20, 21. And it said that He has let loose the two seas, the salt and the fresh water, meeting together. Between them is a barrier which none of them can transgress. Then which of the blessings of your Lord will you both, jinn and men, deny? So again, only recently discovered, already mentioned, 1400 years ago. So another example is in the area of embryology. Keep in mind that the microscope was only discovered in like the 16th century. So this was written down 1400 years ago, just for the record. In the Quran, it said that the creation of a human being goes through different phases. Also, it's actually already mentioned in the Quran in Surah 71, ayah or verse 14, while He has created you in different stages. And the stages are even explained specifically in this book, and it's all accurate. Like I said, I also read this book about like non-Muslim scientists. There was also a scientist of embryology, and he was shown a few verses like these about embryology, and he converted to Islam as well after he saw these verses in the Quran, and he only recently discovered those things a few years ago. So subhanAllah, it's just amazing to see all of these scientific facts, and it was really mind-blowing to me. It was so convincing, and actually this was already pretty much enough proof. But like for me, the fun part came when I discovered that there's also linguistic miracles in the Quran. And that's really fun for me because I actually studied linguistics at university. I just really enjoy linguistics and all of that stuff. So I've watched a few amazing videos by Numan Ali Khan about like the linguistic miracles of the Quran, and I strongly recommend you to watch a few of them as well. I'll definitely leave a video from Numan Ali Khan about this subject down below in the description box, so check that out as well if you're interested. So in this book, there's just like a mathematic, linguistic miracle going on. From cover to cover, for example, the word forgiveness is named exactly twice as much as the word punishment. The word life is named exactly as many times as is the word death. The word heaven is mentioned 77 times, and the word hell is named 77 times as well. So just remember that this book, it came down in a period of 23 years. So it's not written all in once, it's just in 23 years written down, which makes this even a bigger miracle than it already is. The biggest thing that I discovered, like not even the biggest thing, just one of the big things that I discovered, like linguistically, the word women is named 23 times, as is the word men. It's also named 23 times. So if you count it together, 23 women, 23 men, if you count it, then that makes 46 times. 46 happens to be the number of chromosomes that a human being exists of. So it's amazing, it's incredible, it's unbelievably mind-blowing how this book is just composed. I didn't even mention that the verses, they rhyme, but it's not just the verses they rhyme in the end, but sometimes they rhyme from the beginning of the sentence as well as the end of the sentence. I can't even explain how big of a linguistic miracle this is, besides the fact that it's scientific miracle as well. And it keeps happening, you know. People recognize miracles in this book, like they recognized it 1400 years ago, they recognized it like 500 years ago, 100 years ago, and as we speak right now, there's still probably people discovering new miracles in this book, and probably there are still new miracles to be discovered in this book, scientific miracles that maybe our technology is just not ready for yet. So this book is an ongoing flippant miracle right here, and it really makes me tremble, like every single time that I really think about it and reflect upon it.
When giving dawah to non-Muslims, let your attitude be filled with warmth and humility. Approach them with genuine care, showing that you simply want to share something meaningful, not force anything upon them. A gentle and respectful approach reflects the true spirit of Islam. Let your character shine through every action. Be punctual, honest, fair, and generous. Show patience in moments of difficulty and kindness in moments of disagreement. When people witness these qualities, they begin to see the beauty of Islam in real life, not just in words. Speak to them with wisdom and understanding. If they have questions, answer with clarity and calmness. If they have doubts, address them kindly without belittling their views. This respectful communication builds trust and opens their hearts to listen. And always rely on Allah for the results. Your duty is to convey the message with the best manners you can, while Allah is the one who guides hearts. With consistent good conduct and sincere dawah, you may become the reason someone becomes curious and eventually inspired to explore Islam.